a belief in God. I did that. I passed the test, and therefore ascended into the Christ consciousness.
Did they send you? Do you know when you got arrested? When was it? Is about 10 years ago or something?
I was first arrested in Paris in 1998.
Okay. And do you know when they did they put you in some prison? What prison was that?
Well, I was in prison in England in Belmarsh.
Oh, right. Okay, that's a high security prison.
Yeah.
So how was it like in there? I'm just curious.
Well, it was bloody awful. You're in a 10-by-8 cell. You're banged up for 23 hours.
What about dangerous prisoners?
Well, exactly. They put me in with a guy who caved somebody's head in with a hammer. They put me in with junkies who were still taking heroin or recovering. It wasn't the most pleasant period of my life, but having had that now, I can now say that was the worst period of my life. My life, hopefully, will never get that bad again.
Did you ever get attacked in prison?
I was threatened, but I think I was protected actually by the IRA in prison, strangely enough, because I was about to give evidence to the Bloody Sunday inquiry.
Was it Michael Mansfield involved in the Bloody Sunday?
Yeah, he was, yeah. And I was the one that gave evidence against them, against their one claim they had, which is against McGuinness, and I destroyed that in that inquiry. And we've now at the end of that inquiry, and it basically is established that no, there was no activity by the IRA that day. The British Army essentially killed 12, 13 Catholics in cold blood.
Okay. Before you went to the book, the Bible thing, have you ever been any psychiatrist, any shrink?
No.
What are you talking about, man?
Everything I say has a basis in evidence and reason. And anybody who can talk to me will know that I talk about reason.
I'm just so surprised somebody, atheist, believe in the reason and goes back to religion. I was so amazed about that.
Well, it wasn't going back to religion for me. It's not religion at all, it's spirituality. There's a difference between religion, which is a set of laws, a bit like socialism or communism.
Spirituality connected to religion anyway.
No, it's not. No, it goes above religion. It's about love. It's about selflessness. It's about standing up for truth and justice. That is, to me, what it's all about, a journey of the heart.
So they wouldn't say to you, like David Icke, you're a loopy or whatever. No.
Well, I mean, people can accuse me of being loopy and take the piss out of me, but as I say, everything I say has a basis in evidence.
Don't assume somebody's, question everything.
I never said that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, lots of people said I'm a loony, yeah, of course, but people said I was a loony when I first blew the whistle on MI5.
Yeah, I know. But so, do you know, I want to go back on a bit more sort of on that sort of. It's just fascinating. You're a fascinating person. Do you know the Diana thing? You really believe she,
She was assassinated, yeah.
No, she wasn't. It was a car crash, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I believe she was assassinated. There was a white Fiat Uno they never traced that banged into the black Mercedes.
That's what Al-Fayed was saying, that something cut it up, isn't it?
Yeah. And that white Fiat Uno officially hasn't been traced. So that's what they say, they can give it a clean bill of health. They can't, because they can't trace that white Fiat Uno.
What about that guy? Do you know on report he was a drunk driver?
Yeah, no, again, he hadn't been drinking.
But did he work for the Secret Service, or the French Secret Service?
There's a lot of evidence suggesting he was working for several secret services.
So why can't it draw to a conclusion then? Because, I mean, obviously there's a father without a son, and this is going on and on. But do you think she was pregnant?
By Dodi. And the last thing the Zionists wanted was a Muslim half-brother for the Zionist king, basically. The protocols envisage a Zionist king, which is the end of the bloodline, which is William or Harry.
Really?
Yeah. And what they didn't want was a mother of the Zionist king being involved with a Muslim family, which would then obviously influence those two children, so they wouldn't become Zionists.
Wasn't the protocols of the Elders of Zion a Tsarist invention?
No, it wasn't.
Justify the pogroms.
People say it's a forgery. A forgery of what exactly? And it's actually, if you look at it, it's the blueprint they followed in the 20th century.
So what is their end plan? What are they trying? They're trying to create a one world government.
Yeah, in a nutshell, the Zionist plan is to actually be in a situation in which they have all the power, they own the land and the business and so on, and we work for them as serfs. Now, anybody who doesn't think that is the trend going on at the moment in modern society has been asleep for about the last 30 or 40 years. It's quite clearly happening.
But they're trying to destroy nationalism in the process, because
they're destroying everything that opposes them, basically.
That's why the creation of the European states.
Exactly, yeah.
Open the borders. Treaty of Rome they started with, I think.
Yeah, and the more remote governments are from people, whether it's the US federal government or the European superstate, they will not rule in the name of people, basically. It's much easier to manipulate from that kind of level than it is when you've got smaller units, basically. Smaller units are more responsive to the people.
So how does China fit into any Zionist conspiracy?
Well, it's interesting because to say China actually owns quite a lot of the American national debt, so technically they could bring down the US. And indeed, what they tried to do was bring China into a third world war in the late 1990s by bombing the Chinese embassy in Belgrade and putting a spy plane down in China. The Chinese didn't respond to it. And there is some evidence that actually the Chinese are working to a different agenda, that they do know about the prophecy. Just after I awoke in 2007, a guy called Benjamin Fulford went on the Rents show and talked about an ancient Chinese secret society called the Black Dragons, who would start to kill the Rockefellers and Rothschilds if they tried to make the New World Order come true, basically. So it may be that the Chinese are actually holding up against the New World Order.
But some people say they want to use America to destroy America, because as long as America exists, they can't have NAFTA, they can't create NAFTA into a North American Union.
Well, and then America will destroy itself. I mean, that's
but that's what they want, isn't it? The Rockefellers and the...
Yeah, they have no allegiance to anybody at all apart from themselves, and they'll use everything they can to try and destroy people. And what they've done in America, obviously, is create a country in which there are lots of nutters and lots of guns. And when things start to go wrong, there will be a very bloody civil war, basically. That's the point.
Yeah, some people have said that when they started exposing the abuse in places like Abu Ghraib and the rapes in prison and things like that, it was a way of discrediting America, because they want to discredit America. Because now they want to create, have a currency called the Amero.
Yeah, it's like the euro as well. But they control through currencies and banking systems, essentially, and through the debt of those systems.
The euro is in big trouble at the moment. I mean, that's something
the whole thing's in big trouble, isn't it? The whole world is massively in debt. And if you want to listen to anything I say, don't pay your taxes, don't pay your mortgages. That way you take away the finance for wars on the planet. You then grow as much hemp as possible, and you live under the common law, which says that you respect the rights of other human beings. It's that simple. Their system is actually voluntary. There's nothing that can compel you to belong to the society of the UK. So live under those three principles and the world will change. The only way you can make these people see sense is by taking away their sources of finance. They won't listen to reason.
What about abolishing the money? Would it help?
Well, that would be a view in the long term. I think in the medium term we need to return money to being a stable exchange token. It's much easier to be able to go into the tobacconist and buy a packet of tobacco with an exchange token than it is with a sack of spuds, basically. However, we should be moving to that system of exchange rather than monetary system.
Because they have the license to print dollar in the Federal Reserve belongs to them. 3 families.
The same with the Frank England, yeah.
So if you abolish the money, if they're printed with paper, it won't go nothing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're moving towards now. And this is why I say don't pay your taxes because you're funding that system of interest. And again, taking a dictate from the Bible, usury is unlawful. Therefore, you can say I'm not going to pay any debt raised at interest.
Anything rational, but I wouldn't pass that line myself. But,
yeah, but that's perfectly rational, isn't it? That we shouldn't pay money raised at interest.
Can they bring in law to abolish the Federal Reserve if they wanted to, for example, in America?
They could if they wanted to, but they're not going to because the Federal Reserve's in charge. Anybody who does that gets assassinated. Like Kennedy, Lincoln, Andrew Jackson, all these people tried to either pay off the
Andrew Jackson succeeded for a while in abolishing the Bank of America.
He did. Well, he wouldn't give the new charter to it, and he also cancelled it. He also paid off the American national debt. Yeah, exactly. And he was then subject to an assassination attempt, and then they derailed the economy, basically, which is what they will always do. And again, that's one of the things envisaged in the protocols of the Elders of Zion, that they will use the money supply to engineer recessions and depressions to control humanity.
So, I mean, the current depression, do you think is engineered? It's a way of extracting money from the poor to give it to the
some of the poorest people in the world are paying their taxes to fund essentially trillionaires, and that is obviously completely wrong. And so if you want to stop the war, take away the funding from those people. That's the only way to do it.
That's why they said as soon as the banking crisis started, the people, taxpayers should, bail
them out,
bail them out, the bankers. Why?
Yeah, exactly.
The bankers, they suck the blood out of people and bail them out as well.
Well, we paid some ridiculous amount, billions and billions, to save the Royal Bank of Scotland, and they were giving them bonuses of over $1 billion, yeah? We lost the steelworks in Redcar for want of 200 million investment, and that actually produces something useful. So there you go, that shows you in a nutshell who's in charge.
The economists saying the retail part of the RBS is successful, but the one is made all the losses is investment part of the RBS. Yeah. So are we actually getting the shares of the bankrupt, the investment part of the RBS rather than retail? Yeah. Retail is still Staples owns that retail part of it, but we got the ones in the mud.
Yeah, of course, yeah. That's exactly the plan, isn't it? That's how the Zionists want things to work, basically.
So do you think they are herd of animals or stupid, these people?
Well, unfortunately, quite a few people haven't seen through it. Thank God quite a few people have seen through it here, but I say you can actually do something about it by not paying your taxes and your mortgage.
Well, I'm wondering why they didn't put a referendum to the people. Shall we rescue the banks?
No,
why
they would never ask the people reject it. The people would reject it, of course they would. The people would reject it.
Exactly. How come the few so-called ministers in government decide rescue the banks? Why not ask the people? Because people are going to rescue them. It's people's taxpayers' money, this is.
Yeah, the banks are in charge. That's why. It's quite obvious to say. Once you realise that, it makes a lot of sense. Our governments are certainly not in charge. That's patently obvious.
Yet the media, well,
the media's controlled by the Zionists as well.
Exactly. Backs them up as well. Everything.
Are they planning any wars in the short term, for example?
Amazing.
At one level, they would love to go into Iran, but they can't do it. So they tried the World War III. They just didn't take off. Yeah, World War III didn't take off. They tried it, it failed. And they've now to withdraw from Iraq.
But now the problem they have is if they take on China, because they're so interlinked with China, they're going to suffer themselves.
Yeah, they can't have that war. That's the point.